Hey guys, well, I'm here in the garage with my beautiful Cummins diesel. Got my racks on my truck, that's to hold my canoe. Unfortunately, we're not going to be going camping this weekend like we had planned. We were supposed to go to a state park up in northern Louisiana again, a really remote state park. It's so remote I can't even pronounce the name, seriously. But we will make it back up there again. And of course I'll do some gauge watching and I'll do another walkthrough video which everyone enjoys so much. Today I want to talk again about DEF fluid. Not going to talk about how to drain it out. We've already been through that. We all already know that it's got a shelf life and those kind of things. I'm going to give you a little bit more information on how to tell what company makes the DEF that you use, regardless of what brand it is. We'll talk a little bit more about the API certification and the ISO and things like that. I can't do it out here. We're going to go inside and we're going to cover that on the computer. So let's go take a look at that. So here's where I store my DEF. I bought this stuff in Texas, brought it all the way back with me. And that's Walmart brand, SuperTECH. We'll talk about that a little bit too. I keep it in the refrigerator because it'll virtually last for years at that temperature. I keep it right next to the night crawlers like everybody else does, and the porch floor patio paint. So let's go back into the house and finish this video up. So we know there's a lot of different brands of DEF out there, and arguing about which brand is better is probably about like arguing which brand of oil is better. But regardless of the brand, the most significant thing is that it meets the API specs and that it has the API certification on it, just like the oil. And there is the issue of shelf life also that needs to be considered. And obviously O'Reilly's, Walmart, Autozone, they're not blenders. But if they have the API license, then they can put that API certification on their box. And that ensures that that DEF fluid does meet the ISO 22241 standard. Some put the ISO standard on the box, some don't, but it doesn't really matter as long as you see the API sticker. So that brings up the subject of the video really is, who's blending this stuff and how do we find out? So there's a lot of questions about the Walmart brand, SuperTECH. So let's go to the API site and see who's licensed by the API. Okay, so if we go over to the API site, we can see that there's 92 companies that have an API license, which means that it also meets the ISO standard that we talked about earlier. So there's 92 companies, but they're not all blenders. So this is not all the information we need. But let's look at a couple of them that we're kind of familiar with here. Here's one, Msds Oil Company. You say, who is that? Well, I see one on the list that has the API license, Come and Go. If you've ever been out west, you've definitely picked up diesel at a Come and Go, I would think. And they also license to sell the EF fluid, and the ones that I've seen, they're at the pump. I suspect this Msds Oil Company is a blender. Everybody on this list is not necessarily a blender, but I believe those guys are. Here's another one, Warren Oil Company, Autozone diesel exhaust fluid. So Autozone has an API license. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that Autozone gets their fluid from Warren Oil Company. Well, it does mean that they do have the license with these guys. And I suspect these are blenders. I'm not sure. But I've also seen Autozone products with other names besides Warren Oil, as well as Walmart. So they could have more than one supplier is what I'm saying. And of course we got Walmart. And they have the SuperTECH brand. Now this doesn't tell us everything we need to know though, right? we want to know who blends this stuff. So we kind of got to back into that, and we got to look at something called the Msds Sheet. Okay, so here's the Msds Sheet, and you can get these Msds Sheets a lot of times right off the internet under the Cummins site. I got this from Cummins, Fleetguard. But every chemical produced has an Msds sheet. Now you can see right here, it's Fleetguard AdBlue is what the product name is. But right here, AdBlue urea solution. And if we come back over here and look at our API list, it's Old World Industries. Now you notice that they also have Autozone here. We saw it down there at Warren Oil Company. So Autozone's licensed for both Old World and Warren, which by the way makes the Blue Def Peak and then the new Platinum. And by the way, I talked to Peak about the Platinum, or Old World Industries. They kind of one and the same. And I said, well, what's the deal on this Blue Def Platinum? A lot of people think that it's just a way to make more money. Put out the same 32.5% Blue Def or 32.5% solution mixed with purified water. And the guy that I talked to must have been getting ready to retire or something, because he was very honest. And he said, well, there's some of that. He says, but there's a third solution or a third chemical in this Blue Def Platinum that is supposed to give you the things that they advertise in their commercial, which is more mileage and cleaner injection and all this other stuff. And that's how, and they also charge about $5 a box more for this stuff. But it's the only one that I know of that has actually 3 chemicals in it. Every other one that's been out prior to this have had water and urea. And that's what the blenders mix up according to the ISO standard. Now this is also API certified, as you can see, and it also meets the ISO standard. But it does have that third chemical, and that's really the question, is what that third chemical is going to do for you. All right, so here's the SuperTECH exhaust fluid. Let's see who its mixer is. Msds Supply Company, Roseland, Louisiana, right here in good old Cajun country. Now there's their website, and I never heard of them, to be honest, until I started digging into this. They have a brand called SuperTECH. They have SuperTECH everything, oil, you name it, gear oil. But they blenders, they actually do the packing too, the plastic, mold the plastic. They build plastic jugs. I don't know if they actually package it here, but nonetheless, this is who currently blends Walmart's DEF. Up until the end of last year, it was Old World Industries, which is the ones that produced the Peak and some of the other names we just looked at. Now, one thing that people have been asking about is, well, what's the deal on the Walmart brand DEF, the SuperTECH? It doesn't have a date. It doesn't have that reverse Julian code that we've talked about before, or it doesn't have a manufacture date or an expiration date. So that may be a little concerning to some people. I would prefer to see them have a date on it. On the other hand, I did talk to these people, and they have a regional manager here, or salesman here in Louisiana, and he said, this stuff is flying out of there just as fast as they can produce it. And, with a distributor like Walmart, and they're not the only ones that they make this stuff for. But with somebody like Walmart at the price point that Walmart sells it at, you can probably rest assured that it's pretty fresh stuff. And this really the shelf life sitting in a Walmart store at 70 something degrees, it'll last for a very long time. It's when it gets in your truck, and if that truck is sitting out in the heat, for a long period of time, that's where the problem comes in, and we discussed that already. And Smitty's is on the API list. If you look here, Smitty Supply Company. You can see the API certified. They produce, there's their Super S diesel. They also have Cam 2 Blue Blood, and the SuperTECH, of course. And the best place to find out who the blender is to look at the Msds sheet. And then you kind of back into it if you want to through this API list. So one last example. Let's take a look at the Napa DEF. The price point on this stuff is pretty good. And a lot of times you just look around the website and you'll see, here's the Msds sheet right here. It's one of these. I think it's this one. Yeah. And so, see right up here, Old World Industries. Okay, that's peak. So when you're buying this stuff, you're buying peak. One last word about the API. They steward the ISO spec and ensure that the 20 requirements in the ISO standard are met. And I talked to one of these blenders, and he said they will go out to the pump, say at a truck stop, and they'll draw a sample and they'll go out and test it and ensure that it meets those 20 requirements in the ISO spec. Or they'll go into a Walmart store and grab a jug of SuperTECH or Peak or wherever, and they'll go out and test it. So they bird dog this stuff pretty well from what I understand, and I don't think it's just something that they slap on the container and, everybody's fat and happy. But the bottom line, if you want to know who made your DEF, find the safety data sheet, go to that. If you want having trouble sleeping at night, just grab one. Doesn't matter. They have these things on oil and every damn chemical you can imagine. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it. I know this has been probably more confusing than it has been helpful, but anyway, appreciate you watching, and until next time, adios.